I'm here with Miriam Codd-Pott from Belize. Miriam is a member of the Baha'i Community of Belize. She holds a couple of positions in the Ministry of Education. She's District Education Officer of her district and also the Vice Chair of Education. And this week she's attending the 55th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women as part of the Baha'i International Community's delegation to the Commission. This year the Commission is focusing on women's and girls' access to education, training, science, technology, as well as employment. Thank you so much, Miriam, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Miriam, can you tell us what, in your experience, are some of the critical education needs of girls and boys in Belize, and how have you tried to address them?
Well, there are a number of issues that are being addressed in Belize when it comes to girls and boys. But I want to remind you that in Belize we do not have, and in the Caribbean, as you've noticed, the statistics are the reverse. In Belize, in education, we have more girls than boys in almost every one of the levels of education in Belize. The girls outnumber the boys by far. So we have that reality, and then we have other issues that are pertaining to boys and girls. And so while we address those for boys, we also address the ones that are affecting the girls as well. One of those is the way we look at the policies for the different levels for education in Belize. One of them that it has taken off with great momentum is the aspect of parenting. We looked at what we had and say, you know what, maybe we don't want to leave our boys behind. We have crime on the rise, and maybe we need to take a look at the way we do things, or that we had been doing things, and that the way we need to do things in the future. And so one of the things that we've been doing is parenting. In my work, my workload responsibility, I have to monitor about 76 schools across the levels from preschool to university. And one of the aspects is parenting. That's just one. There are many more. For example, increasing access to boys for the examinations that are taken at the end of each of the levels. And sometimes we find that the boys have to leave home early. With that issue, the boys leave home early, and then they take care of the rest of the family, and they do not finish school. So they do not go on to the other level. So we have other issues
That's interesting.
that come up with boys, and that would attribute them to being a lesser registered number, a lesser number in the institutions. And so we have the parenting issue, which in our estimation, in the northern part of Belize, it works well, is to educate, come up with modules that educate the parents on the roles of both women and men, and girls and boys. One of the things we've done with the parents is to educate them on having greater access to language, and the way they speak to the boys, and the way the boys and girls speak to each other. And that language was one of the elements that we discussed in putting the module together for parenting. Language was one of the issues. And another one was technology. We actually did training on hundreds of parents and different clusters of communities in the north, and how to create learning centers with recycled products from home. So for example, if you have 3 boxes of cereal, you take this, you put them to lie down on the table, and you cut out a U in each of them on one side, and you have a pre-writing, a writing, and a post-writing, and you can have a writing corner for both boys and girls. And so it would be with things that are recycled from home, and it would be directly related to what they need to know before they go to school, boys and girls. And so we haven't been able to look so far at the impacts as yet, but it's gaining momentum. The use of technology in the home with recycled things, increasing the option for boys and girls, the way parents speak to children about going to school, getting ready to go to school. One of the questions in the parallel event at the Salvation Army asked the question, at what age should we educate our girls or boys about, at what age should we educate them that they should go to school? You should go to school at age 3, or you should go to school at age 2.5 or 4 or whatever. Really, the question is, from what time should we educate our children about school, about options, about technology? It's really from birth. And it goes back to parenting. So I was very happy to be in that session, because it addressed something that we have been addressing in Belize, in education. And so I was able I was very comfortable discussing what works, what has worked in this area in technology. And so they found it fascinating, the audience found it fascinating to hear that about something that has been homegrown. It's a strategy that really is homegrown. We have many problems associated with boys and girls in school, and this number, this reversing number, and we really have to find the solutions right there. The solutions are right there. The problems are there, yes, but there are also solutions. So far, it is working. I can't say we've done any evaluation or any put in any evaluating mechanism so far. It's something that has taken up momentum, and we're trying it and finding that it works. So maybe one of the areas I look at when I go back, well, it's not a maybe, I have to look at that, which is evaluating it and reproducing it in other parts of the country. And one of the areas of evaluating it is using policy. So what's going to be the new policy? What really do we want to accomplish? And so it's not really reversing the numbers, but giving more options to boys and girls for technology from a very early age, and using language with our parents. Because we find out our parents are so happy when you contact them. They love it. They feel like they're running the school. So it gives them power, empowerment of the parents, which eventually empowers the boy and the girl. So parents are not empowered. There's no way we're going to empower their children. The parents have to be empowered. So that's one way we did it as homegrown, and that's picking up momentum. And hopefully that will contribute to the numbers, to making a more evenly balanced number of boys and girls.
That's amazing. And I agree with you. There's value in systematization and recording so that we can keep track of our learnings. Mm-hmm. And speaking of learnings, so I'm assuming that some of the age group that you work with are youth, and boys and girls who are maybe even pre-youth, so before the ages of 14 and 15. And have you seen any changes from, I know you haven't recorded much of the work that you've been doing recently on paper necessarily, but have you seen any changes in these youth from the encouragement that they're getting from the programs?
Yeah, well, the youth programs, we're trying what we can do with the Book 5 training. We're trying as much as possible on the ground, different things with the junior youth books that we've been working with. We've been trying things, as we know, all of them are in progress. But there's not a final Book 5, or there's not a final book. It's always in progress. So we try out what we get, and what we have noticed from the response of the junior youth, ages 11 to 14, 13, we've noticed that they are more the leaders in their community. They've become more like leaders to the community in general. They've asked them to do different things now. You're in that group. Oh, okay, that means you can do this. Or it automatically gives them that look that, you know what, they're leaders. So the aspect of leadership really takes precedence in the community. The older generation, the young generation, leadership has always been a question. But if you do not have the practice of these activities with the junior youth, then it doesn't get practice. That leadership doesn't get practice. So as soon as the community sees them doing different service projects, fundraising, working with the Red Cross, working with the village council, working with the teachers, working with the other children and not creating barriers, but really working with other children, other pre-youth, other junior youth, it really brings across the theme of leadership. The students become more self-confident about what they want to say because of the practice of the activities. They have this practice of speaking to each other and in a language that is respectful. And so the community looks up to them and ask them to do different things. And not just the activities that we do in our service projects. They ask them to do different things, like run other cultural events, organize different things at school. And so it really spreads their self-esteem around, and that leadership aspect comes across very strong.
That's amazing. So you've already touched a bit on what the community's response is to these initiatives. So they view youth and children, both boys and girls, as being capable of being active participants in the community and in building it. Any closing remarks on the kind of response from the community
well,
in general?
The theme of gender equity comes across very strong because the boys no longer see themselves as, oh, I'm macho. It's more like, oh, how could I make that better? Or how could we do this thing together? It's more like a togetherness issue for them, group consensus, rather than, oh, I can do this and I can do, and I need this respect and I need this macho feeling. It's no longer that. We've seen a drastic change in the way the boys speak to each other, the way they speak to the girls. One time we were doing a play, we're practicing a play, Princess Shida, which is in one of the Brilliant Star magazines, issued by a Baha'i organization that prints it. One of the boys said, well, if nobody wants to be Princess Shida, I can be Princess Shida. It's not a matter of if it's a princess, it's a matter of a role and bringing across a message. I don't know, for me that was something very interesting. And in the play, there are different servants that come forward to become Princess Shida's suitor. And they change their voice, they come across as leaders in terms of they have to do better than the other person. It's more like a group consensus on what is it that we're really presenting to the public. What we want to accomplish out of the activity, not necessarily it's a place for me to excel over my partner. It's really a group thing. And that unity that comes across in the community that you don't normally find, that is intended, comes across. So it's like, okay, we need to be together to present this and we need to get this done. It doesn't matter who plays what part, but we get the message across. And that's really maturity on the part of pre-youth, because you know that egocentrism still comes along very strongly at age 11, but not when they're involved in so many activities where they get to practice leadership qualities as a group with a purpose. You know, that there's purpose to community life other than just going to school. So that comes across very strongly, that leadership, that self-esteem, that our 11 to 12-year-olds are the experimental age. So they have this group feeling is very good to nurture. And if we can do that at all levels, I think we'd have a more better community life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're very busy, and I know you have to run off to some other events, but I really appreciate you speaking with us today, telling us about your work. Enjoy the rest of the commission.
Thank you.